Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Groveland Council on Aging special program this afternoon. I'd like to introduce you to two fine gentlemen, Ray Goulet, who's going to be our speaker today, and Mike Cloutier, who is the manager of the Groveland Light Department, and the Groveland Light Department is sponsoring this special ice cream social and program on electrical safety. Welcome.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you all for coming out. We're putting on this little program for you guys to give you some useful information, things you may not think of as to how to stay safe. There's some energy conservation in the program as well. And Ray, Mr. Gooley, has some excellent examples of what can go wrong with electricity. We all take it for granted. And a lot of safety features have been built in over the years, but there still are accidents, and we need to be very mindful of the potential dangers that it represents to us. So, yeah, again, like Lynn said, enjoy the ice cream and enjoy the presentation. Here's Ray Gooley.
Thank you, Michael. I'm very happy to be here, and we'll go over indoor, outdoor safety, and I'll be happy to take all your questions at the end. Many of you take for granted when you hit that switch, the light comes on, the television comes on, especially today, even your air conditioner might come on, all right? But certain things you have to understand. How does electricity get here? Well, we broke it down to 4 basic steps. Electricity is made in generating plants, whether it be coal or fossil fuel or green power. And it's shipped on these huge transmission lines. You ever see those big towers off of 495? Those are called transmission lines. Then it comes into our substations around town. That's number 2 over here. That's where Groveland Light picks up its responsibility. It buys and shops and brings power into the town at a reliable rate. But this is the key. It's responsible for number 2, 3, and 4. But I always say this chart is the perfect chart for electricity. You know why? There are no trees. Okay? No trees, no storm damage. Now, that is the big key. It's called reliability. There are many different utilities out there, and I'll just give you an example. You're owned by the people we serve, Groveland Light. You have your manager here. You have the large utilities such as National Grid. Their headquarters is where? Who knows where National Grid headquarters are at? Anyone want to try?
England.
Not Worcester. That's old New England Energy.
Is that New Jersey?
Not New Jersey. Okay, well, try leaving the States here.
Oh,
England, excellent. Very good. So you can see, you win an ice cream. So you can see we're locally owned, and that is so important. When you have a problem or a question, you know where to find us, all right? We're right here in town. Our manager lives in town and his family. We have commissioners that oversee us. We are owned by the people we serve. Basically, we're owned by Main Street, not Wall Street. So we answer to you. We want to be reliable. We get out there, we make things happen, such as this informational program. So we always get asked, what's the difference between a national grid or investor-owned utility or one that's in the town or city? It's simple. It's we're owned by Main Street versus Wall Street. You know where to get us. Let me give you a quick example. What is your 800 number you call for outages here? You don't have an 800 number. That's a trick question. Okay? Let's make sure you're paying attention to that brain freeze on me. So that's important. I don't want that. So, right, yeah, well, I want to make sure you don't freeze up on me. So the big thing is we're local. Okay? You call us, we're there. When you deal with the larger utility, they have what we call call centers. It could be Northborough, Massachusetts. It could be up in New York. And then they have to relay it to different parts. So that's important to understand. Locally owned, when the lights go out, we're here to respond. Lights do go out through the storms and what have you, but we're here. You're lucky on the North Shore, we have mutual aid with many other communities up here. We can help respond and work together as a team and get the power on. Now, let's understand a few things about power and power lines. First off, when we talk about power line safety, especially this time of year, how many of you power wash your homes? Out there doing painting, things like that. What I brought in are samples. Now, first of all, of course, we've never handled anything like this with bare hands. This is what we call the service wire. Runs from the pole to the home. All right, how many of you are familiar with the service wire? Okay. Let's just remember, keep ladders and anything like that at least 10 feet away. We'll come out there and put protection on it. You call us here at Groveland Light. The men and women from the light department will be happy to come on out and fix this for you. Make sure you don't put the ladder into the wire. Now, what do you do if you have a hornet's nest near here?
Call the electric.
Yeah, very good. I want to share something with you. We have a special type of spray. If you have the regular hornet spray you get, say, at a Home Depot or something like that, that will conduct electricity. This will not. So we want to tell you, if you ever have anything like this, what we want you to do, anything near power lines, simply call us. We'll come out and assist you. There is no charge for that. We're here to help, all right? We're here to take questions. So that's the important thing. Now, this is the type we use. You can't buy this in stores, all right? See me after I got my trunk open. No. But you can't buy this in stores, all right? But we want to keep you nice and safe. Now, if you have grandchildren, please, here's something else you have to keep away from wires. Silly string. They like to spray all this. If it gets too near the service wire, it will conduct. So, and we always remember this. Any wire, always consider it dangerous. I always hear this, well, it's just up there and things like that. Be careful. And now, speaking of wires, the wire is connected to the weather vane, which leads down to the meter. Now, how many of you like to barbecue? Okay. Please, keep the gas grill away from the meter cover. It's plastic. We had somebody, not in this town, another town over the week, Memorial Day, out there barbecuing, and what happened is it melted this. What would you do if you melted the meter cover? What are you gonna do? There we go. The guys are gonna like you. You call us. There we go, yeah. But that's important to understand. A lot of people don't know what to do. They panic. They'll go over and touch it. Don't touch it. You just call us. We respond 24/7, 365. We're here for you. But this is an example. Sometimes things happen. Now, also, never move the meter yourself or try to attach it. Sometimes we have people that want to do their own work. And how many of you heard this, ladies, before? You can't tell men anything. You hear that? Yeah. This is an example of somebody that went out and tried to move the meter cover itself. Yeah, I was right. Now, the reason we bring this program to you in Groveland Light, we want to keep you safe. And we bring these examples in. They always say, when you bring examples in, when you give talks, you remember much better. So next time something with the meter cover or lens cover, they call it, you have a question, you call us, we'll move it. Because over the years, I've heard people, oh, I worked with electricity years ago. Well, I remember working with guys from the World War II era. They could wear leather gloves. All of that is gone. We got the big, heavy rubber gloves. Now, speaking of wires and what have you, some of the wires go underground. How many of you live in a neighborhood where there's a green box? Okay, all right. Now, I have to explain this to you. This is so important. Dig safe. Make sure you get this on camera. Right? Okay. Boys, ladies and gentlemen, dig safe is the law. Okay? Yeah, I'm going to explain that to you. I hear this all the time. I lived in my house for 35 years, and we had a gentleman in one of my towns. He went to put a fence post in. He nicked the gas main. He almost blew up the home. He's lucky. Sometimes our accidents are not as lucky. Person was digging, he went in and hit a buried cable, cost the person his life. So that's why we say, if you ever have a question, call 811. If you don't know what to do, call Groveland Light, they'll be happy to assist you. I know it gets confusing, but why do you have to call? Because A, it's the law, and B, it's free. So if you go in this list here, it's a handout. Even if you put a garden in or anything that goes into the ground, please call us. And say if you're gonna excavate or take something out, like old shrubs or trees, you're gonna rip them out, call us. Call 811, because sometimes the roots will grow and they can wrap themselves around underground utilities. So 811 is very important. It's the law, you have to call. Now, as we move on, I want to share a couple other things. And I have all this color code for us. This one is power line safety, the yellow. Now, sometimes we have to know about wires. And this is an accident in which a man was dumping off salt over the winter. He put the bed into the overhead wires. He saw the person being electrocuted. This man went out to try and save his life. They both lost their lives. If you were to see anybody being hurt with electricity, don't go near them, don't touch them. Call 911 and let the first responders get there. I know our first instinct is let's go help somebody. Let's get out there. No, you have to wait and call 911. I know it's in our adrenaline, we want to do something, but we're not trained professionals. Let the professionals handle that. Speaking of professionals, sometimes when we're out there with the overhead wires or underground, we see them on the ground. And a lot of this information came about through hurricanes over the years, the ice storm. And the biggest thing is this, I always hear this, that's a phone wire. How many of you, oh, that's a file wire. Ever hear people talk, oh, don't worry, that's a phone wire on the ground? Okay, well, when we go out, and the men and women, we're trained. And one of the things we have is a voltage tester. Have you heard of a smoke detector? Well, this picks up electricity, and we have our safety equipment on. We can go over to something, and it picks up the electrical waves, so we know if it's dangerous or not. So we can find them on the ground. The human body has some static. Okay, you're wired. Okay, so here we go. Now, we know what to do. But this is one of our testers. I'll tell you why. We have a lot of people that want to do our job. They want to be our helpers. Don't help us. I'm serious. Stay away. We had a wire on the ground. The person went out with a shovel to try and just scoop it up and move it. They figured the electricity wouldn't go through the wood. So let's just remember, these are good examples. The same thing with icicles. I remember several years ago we had the huge ice storm, 2008. There was icicles everywhere on wires. People started going out, thank God there was no power going through it, all came down, whacking power lines to knock the ice off. I want to share something with you. There is no safety coating on our power lines. The black coating on wires is put on to protect it from weather or trees, not to protect you. Now the same thing, if you have to trim near the wires, you call us at the utility, we'll help you. Yeah, person had vines growing up and they accidentally went into the service wire or what have you. They trimmed too close, they get a power line. So what I want you to understand as far as the wires go, don't go near them, don't touch them. Now, squirt guns. How many of your grandchildren have super soakers? See, when we grew up, we had those little plastic ones with bags, right? They shot 3 feet. The new ones today can go 40 to 45 feet. Maybe next year we'll have a squirt gun fight too. I'm ready for the seniors. But the reason is, kids today will go out, they look up at the power lines, they'll say, aha, here's Rocky, I'm gonna squirt him. See, electricity moves very fast. As quick as you blink your eyes once, it goes around the world 6 times. It travels at the speed of light. That's why things happen. Now, on top of our wires, we have insulators. And the insulators sit on top of the pole. They look like little knobs. They stop the electricity from going to the ground. I think I might have one in the bag here. Well, one of these bags, right here. They look like this. All right? This is what they look like. How many of you remember the glass ones? How many of you find those in the woods? I'm going to tell you how they got in the woods. When I started with the utilities years ago, they said, Ray, you're going to work your way up to the top. And I started climbing poles. We had to change out the glass insulators. And we didn't want to climb down with the glass insulators, so we whipped them into the woods. So much for recycling. Like that. So that's how they got in the woods. All right? That's the secret. All right? We weren't coming down with it if we fell. Back then it was safety. Safety was important to us. So we always, that's how they got in the woods. Now, the other thing you have to understand is this. How many of you see birds on the wire? All right. Now, just give me a sec. How come the bird could go on the wire? I have to talk to the Pope lady, so I gotta use this bird. That was a cardinal. Yeah, how come the bird, the claws, no?
They're not grounded.
Who said that? Axel, you can win a cookie up there. See, the bird can land on the wire because it doesn't touch the ground. We have a saying, wires are for the birds. I always ask the school children this. They got feathers, special feet, everything. No, when they land on, they're nice and safe. But if they open up and they touch 2 wires at the same time, boom, that's how they get hurt. So we have to be very careful with the birds. All right, just remember, birds are special. They have wings, they don't touch the ground, they fly on and off. So that's how they stay nice and safe up there. Now let's talk a little bit about some of the indoor things. And I brought in, how many of you are familiar with extension cords? Extension cords are orange for fire. All right, get this. I want to go over extension cords with this. On here, and a lot of people don't understand this, that 84% of fires inside are from extension cords. It's all the statistics on here. I know. Remember, extension cords are not permanent wiring. And I want to give you an example. We found this over the winter. Remember that cold winter we had? Okay. And what would happen is everybody loves to buy this extension cord. Why does everybody love to buy this extension?
Cheap.
Very good. Yeah, right. Cheap. Okay, yeah. But it's really not that safe to use. The reason being is an extension cord is like a hose. A hose handles so much water. Electricity is like water. If too much goes through here, this melts. And what will happen, they plug it into space heaters and it starts a fire. And that is so important to understand, all right? Now, Groveland Light is always proactive. We want to keep you safe. And we do a winter talk, and I have to say, one of the things we talked about, and I brought this up for documentation because Groveland Light wants to keep you safe, is overuse of these. How many of you have something like this at home? Oh, how many things do you plug in? As many holes as they are? Right, that's what most people think. But what I want to share with you is this tragedy that took place. I know it's not that time of season, but it can happen with air conditioners and things like that. What happened, it was a cold winter, and the person plugged in the space heater into the power strip, and he plugged his electric blanket in. Seconds later, it ignited and cost the man his life. Now, this is why Groveland Light sends me up here. We want to get the word out to our neighbors. Yes, we're having some fun today. We got ice cream. We'll have some jokes, but this is an important message, is overloaded outlets, especially older homes. People say, oh, I want to plug this in, I want to plug that in. You can't do that. Now, you probably say, well, how do I know what to plug in? It's simple. You look on the back of something, it tells you the amperage, 2A, 3A. The most these can hold is 15 amps. If you go over 15, that's when you have a problem. It can overload, you have to adjust the circuit breaker, and then you unplug things. When you overload the circuit breaker, that means unplug certain things. So that's important to understand. The other thing which is very important to understand is in lightning storms. These do not work in lightning storms. People go on vacation, boom, their house gets struck by lightning. And they say, what happened? Well, that's what happened. These are not lightning arresters. A licensed electrician will install a lightning arrestor in your home. And I tell a lot of people this, they work out of the homes, we have a lot of nice electronics today. It's always handy to have a lightning arrestor put into the home. I have one on my apartment, and it's good to have because I don't want to lose everything. So that's important. If you go away on vacation or there's an electrical storm coming, it's always good to unplug these things before this can happen to you. Now, inside the home, oh boy, breaking it up. I want to keep an eye on this, and I hear this from seniors. Ray, we save everything. No zebra cords. Okay, do any of you have the zebra cord at home all taped up? Oh yeah. All right, once a cord becomes cut or damaged, you got to get rid of it. Black tape and gray duct tape is not miracle tape. It can start a fire. It dries out. It's time for a new one. Now, there's certain clips you can put on here to keep the baseboard, this away from baseboard heat. They have these at Target, Walmart. You clip it on so the cord is nice and won't go near that. Don't put the cords under carpeting. Don't wrap the cords all up. They have to work nice and straight. Sometimes the cords can become bunched or tied up. There we go. Bundle, right. So we'll keep that in mind. Now, the other type of cord, which is important, is for the air conditioner. All the cords today have what they're used for. People say, Ray, that's expensive. This cord's $11. I say, well, I always see the Foxwoods filled in Mohegan Sun. Good extension cords prevent fires. This is for air conditioners, microwave ovens, things like that. Now, how many of you do work outside? Any of you have the electric snow thrower? I want to share this with you. We now have what we call, I don't know if you realize this, cold weather cords. When it gets extremely cold outside, this has a special jacket on the inside, so it won't crack or freeze. This cord is rated to 50 degrees below 0 Fahrenheit. So you make sure, especially after last winter, if you do Christmas lights, things outside, or what have you, it's important. The other important thing is puddles, water. I know we like to go outside. How many of you use the electric weed whackers? Okay. Make sure your house is grounded properly and you're not dragging this through puddles and what have you. Okay. Oftentimes, I remember years ago, remember the ground plug that stick out? People would always snip that off. Oh, it won't fit, and they do their own type of, you remember, or they do their own type of wiring. That is all put on there for safety reasons. And when you're done, these are very handy to have, the cable cuffs. Goes around the cord, bundles it up nice, and you can hang it up. So that's handy. It's also good for grandchildren that don't listen. So, 3 of them. So that is handy. Now, speaking of cords and heat, I want to share this with you. Any of you use Bengay or these type of sounds or whatever you use? Okay. The important thing is that when you use Bengay, do not put the heating pad or electric blanket on top of you because it can start a fire. There's a small warning on here because of the petroleum in here. If you wrap the Bengay on and put the heating pad or the electric blanket, boom, that can happen. So you have to be very careful. A lot of people don't understand that. We ran into that last year. Now, as we move along, I want to share something with you how the world has changed. You all grew up in a time when everything was made in America, correct? Yeah. Well, here's the big thing you have to understand. Counterfeits. It's a $20 billion industry, okay, for electronics. So you're saying, how do I know if something's fake or not? It's simple. Buy from a reputable source. Be careful when you go to flea markets, dollar stores, things like that for electronics. We have people that sell, you might get for your grandchildren, knockoff video games. Oh, I can save some money. They're not good, they melt. Same thing with electronics. The extension cord's not good, it doesn't have enough wiring in it. You overload it and it just melts on you. That is important. Now, speaking of importance is the word Energy Star. Now, I put this in green because it saves money. I want to show you how cute the counterfeiters are. What they did is sometimes they'd sell stuff online, cheaper, and they'd put this little Energy Star label on it. So when you were shopping online, you said, oh, it's Energy Star. Well, it really wasn't. That's why we tell people you have to buy from a reputable place. Home Depot, places like that can be online. Watch out on the computer, though, if you have something, have traceability. Just don't buy it from a post office box or some company. Where can I return it? Oh, you got to ship it back here or ship it there. That is so important. But the Energy Star label is an excellent label to look for. It means it saves you money. When you go to buy an appliance today, it'll have the word Energy Star on it. And this is what it looks like. So I printed this in green because it saves money. Also, how many of you have those old refrigerators in your home? Or old freezers? Okay, this explains, those are like having a car from the early 70s, the energy hogs or gas hogs. So a lot of people don't realize when they look at the electric bill, they say, well, how can I save some money? Well, if you have the old appliances, they're costing you a lot of money. Just to give you an example, that 6-pack in a refrigerator can cost you an extra $100 a year using an old refrigerator. But you know something else that saves you money? Unplugging things, energy vampires. How many of you leave your toaster in, your coffee maker in, things like that? Those are all what we call energy vampires. 30% of your electric bill, I'm sorry to tell them this, Michael, but it's wasted power, okay? But a lot of people say, oh, I deal with the kids. They all have cell phone chargers today, the kids. And they all have video game things. So all of those little energy charges that you leave in the wall use electricity. See, a lot of people say, oh, well, my phone's not charging. I ask them, is it in the wall? They say, yes. Well, I said, electricity is alternating current. It keeps going around in circles. So just remember, as long as something is plugged in, it's using its power. So you want to save things, you go away, unplug the things that you don't use. like in the morning, when you're done with the coffee maker, things like that, toaster oven, simply unplug it, and that could be a great savings. That and the Energy Star label. Yeah. Now, one of the other important points which I want to share with you is this, and I'll leave this. I went to a manufacturing conference about a week ago, and I know, and I hate to bring up this word, it's called winter. And after Labor Day this year, Home Depot and a lot of stores are gonna have a big push on space heaters. Because after last year's winter, everybody went to buy it. And here's this checklist. A lot of people, you have to remember, space heaters are not permanent heat. But what I found from going to meetings and talking to people that work in code enforcement, what would happen is if you run out of home heating oil, can you get more? No. But what happens is the utility can't shut you off. So people would go out and buy lots of space heaters, they'd buy extension cords, and that became their permanent source of electricity and heat. So that's very dangerous to do. So the reason I'm sharing this with you is you have to remember extension cords and space heaters are not permanent heat. That means you just can't keep running them over and over. And on here are the simple directions and safety tips that you have to share with others. Now, we are working in conjunction with other departments. I belong to NFPA, National Fire Protection. And the electric utility has always been very proactive. And I wanted to share this with you. Last year, the #1 cause of fires were space heaters. I have an article, but people aren't using smoke detectors, seniors. And I left this up here. It's always good to have a smoke detector and carbon monoxide detector. Those two things are very important to have. Especially now you say, well, I'm not inside. But what happens if all of a sudden your smoke detector or carbon monoxide detector starts beeping? What does that mean? The battery might have to be replaced, but after so many years, they wear out and they still have to be replaced. I live in an apartment building, they had to replace them all after 7 years. It just started beeping, it's time for a new one. So that's why sometimes people say, what's it beeping for? It's because you need that. Now, any of you do your own electrical work at home? Oh, you're all shy because of the camera. Turn the camera off like this. All right. Nobody wants to raise their hand.
Turn around, Mike.
Yeah. All
We
right.
did anyway.
The reason I share this with you is just because electricity is a profession, okay? And you can see a gentleman got burned up bad. He was doing his 3-decker over, and he was cutting wires, and he got burned up, and I interviewed him. I said, what happened? He says, well, it has rubber handles. Doesn't that protect you? No. But we bring this to you because a lot of people just don't understand. They hear, oh, electricity can't go through rubber. Well, it can. The high voltage electricity today can go through rubber. That's why, and this is our next topic, is this. How many of you seniors are out there texting and driving? Okay. All the see the cameras on everywhere, so okay. Now, you got that on camera, that's that? Yeah, put that on there, okay. Now, the reason I point this out to you is I know you say, well, I don't text and drive, but how many of you see vans or cars coming at you, swerving, or you're behind people saying, what the heck is going on? I do 40,000 miles a year driving, and I have to say it's getting worse out there. The #1 cause of accidents today is distracted driving. I want to share this with you. I know your age group isn't the biggest age group that texts and drives, but that doesn't mean somebody's going to cut you off and you lose control. If you lose control of your vehicle and you hit a utility pole, all right, and the wires come down on top of the car, stay in it. That's all you do, stay in it. Do not panic. I know you're going to hear noise, you don't know what to do, stay in it. If you have a cell phone, that's when you call 911. That's all you have to do is call 911. We'll be happy to come and get it for you, all right? Now, the only exception to this rule is if it's on fire, all right? Now, this is kind of tricky, but if you hit something that hard, trust me, you're not going to be jumping. But this is very rare. If you hit something and all of a sudden it catches on fire, open up the car door. Now, you stay on the edge of the car door, hop out with both feet, and when you land, drag your feet, shuffle heel to toe. That's only if that is very rare. I have to cover that as part of the safety talk if it's on fire. And we don't. And I have to say, we've been doing this program in school for many years, and we had a school bus, not in this town, but another town, will go off the road, they hit a pole, wires went on top of the bus. The children, because they had this program, knew to stay in it. And that's what I mean by Groveland Electric is very proactive in bringing the program, we call it connecting the generations, from the very young to the seniors, and we get out there. We wanna make sure everybody understands safety. And just think about it, every day your life is affected by something electrical that you take for granted. So if there's ever a question that comes up, you don't know what to do, always ask us at Groveland Light, we're here to help you. There's no 10 digits you have to call, we're right around the corner, so we have to, and we know where you're at, so we're here to help you. And the most important thing is watch out for scams. How many of you have caller ID on your phones? Okay. What they do now is if you, and they're so smart, they can program in the local utility, say Groveland Electric, they'll call you. And then come, oh, Groveland, yes, we have a senior discount rate. How many of you seniors look for senior discount rate? Okay, so all of a sudden, you say, okay, I need this information. By the way, we have to file this with the government and HUD and all this. What's the social security number?
Oh,
All right, that's good, you know. But they know how to get you. What I learned from giving talks is when a con man or con woman gets you or engages you, the longer they talk, the more information. So what I tell people, it's simple. Somebody calls you from the light department, says Groveland Light, hang up and call us back. That's all you have to do to verify that it's us. Now, Michael, are there any meters in the homes anymore up here? No. So it's same thing. We had this happen in one of my towns. They'll go out and they can buy a vest. I brought my vest somewhere. And what they'll do is they wear, you know, work pants. They'll have the vest on and they'll just have it lettered, you know, local utility. Oh, we have to come in and inspect your wiring. And the people let them in because they have a nice vest or shirt on. They're very trusting, and then they rob you. So if anyone ever comes to your house, always let us know, and we'll be happy to verify they're there. Now, sometimes people say, what about the ID badge? Well, ID badges are like money. They can counterfeit them. They have a personal computer, they take a picture of themselves, and they print it. So we always say, call us to verify that we're out there, and that is so important. I have to say, we had a great talk. Do any of you have any questions before I wrap up? Did you enjoy the ice cream?
Oh,
Is there any free stuff? That's what it is, right? All right, we have to get the questions done.
What about these fireplaces that they sell? There's electric fireplaces, those safe?
No, they don't come.
Yeah, you put me on the spot. When you buy something, we always tell you, you follow the manufacturer's directions. She asked about fireplaces they sell. You have to follow directions. That's why in 1972, they came out with the Consumer Protection Act. I don't know if you remember buying things years ago, and I bring in the old Christmas lights. There was nothing in the box, you know, and I saved those old boxes from the 60s and 70s. That's why when you buy a cord today, it lists all the do's and don'ts. That's why we say follow manufacturer's directions. It's all in there. So if you follow directions, you stay safe. If you don't follow them, that's when accidents happen. Okay, question.
I have one quick question. I'm just curious, driving along, you'll see sometimes on the wires, it looks like an orange cover.
A ball?
Or almost like a piece of cloth or leather.
Oh, that's a line hose.
Yeah, what is it, it's protecting something?
Well, that's a good, the line hose is on the power line because there's no safety code. What happens, the line professionals, the men and women who are working on the wires, they'll leave that up there. That's
Yeah.
what's up there. It's a
Oh.
safety code, but you're very observant.
Oh, okay.
No, we get that. Now, how many of you see the big balls on the wires?
Oh,
We
yeah.
always got that question, what's that? That's for wind. They used to say, is that for helicopters? I say, no, that's for wind. You'll see them over the big lakes, and you go out to Western Mass, that's so they don't get blown around the wires, the high winds. So that's any other questions you might have? Go ahead.
You showed the brown extension cord, the cheap one.
Inexpensive. Politically correct.
What
I
is
want
a
to-
good substitute for that?
Well, it depends.
Isn't there one?
Okay, no, there is. This is designed, as you see it on here, for the lamp or radio. Now, say if you were gonna run your microwave, this is what you use. That's a good
Same
one.
for TV?
Yeah, and it's on televisions, it's all on our forms right here, and I'll pull it up. This would not, you couldn't use this on a television. All right, see,
What are the amps that you said?
on here, I'll be happy to go over it. This one on here is designed for 14 amps.
Oh, okay.
So this is maximum. this is what we would use. But that's why I brought in all these handouts, because we go over a lot, and it's good to have, but that's why you ask the questions. And not only that, is when we meet with manufacturers, that people say, oh my gosh, that's why we have pictures on here now, on a lot of these, that go over what we have on them, so that way when you look on the picture, it helps explain it, and we're here to help on different types of tools and appliances for them. That's all you have to do. We make it easy and safe.
I
Go ahead.
have one more question. Those multi,
Power strips.
power strips, are they all surge suppressors? Or are some of them just multi?
You have to read the directions on them.
Okay.
Okay?
And there's different qualities of surge suppressors?
Yeah, different
size?
qualities, different types,
Okay.
and you just have to go there. I recommend, my personal thing in my home, what I like to use, I don't tell people how to live, is especially with the technology and children and everything you invest, I went and I had a lightning arrest to put on. That has to be done by a licensed professional. So that's a little pitch for local 103 out there.
How much does that cost?
It all depends on what you need. I mean, I live in a one-bedroom apartment, but you have to look at your homeowner's insurance, what it covers and what it doesn't. So a lot of times people say, well, you know, if act of God on you, might not cover certain things. I put my personal one on my home, it was around $1,200. But that's for a lifetime. It's, you know, your house, you go on vacation and your house gets struck. At least I know when I come home, a few years, everything's gonna be working. So that's my peace of mind. You know, I got that, and I got my kids with this, so it's a different world today, so that's what I put on my home. Go ahead, Ron.
Yeah, Ray, you have a blue device up there, which I obviously never use,
Yes.
but I'm sure you can say something
Sure.
about it.
One of the big things is the indoor-outdoor is this. One of the things I always hear, and I like to call is be careful, water and electricity don't mix. And if you have grandchildren come over or what have you, always unplug the items. Now, sometimes people say this has a built-in ground fault, but it's like anything else, it's not 100% foolproof, okay? It does work, it does save lives, but can it fail? Yeah, there's a slim chance it might. So we always say, let's practice good safety habits. And one of the things, especially I just want to touch upon being distracted, is this. Oh, be surprised, there's a lot of people that get hit in mall parking lots. You watch the people come out, they jump in the car, they whip out their iPhone, they throw the car in reverse and off they go. So, but to be seen, you can buy these at Target or Home Depot. They're little clip-on lights, they're nice for women's pocketbooks, but I know we got this, and you hit it, and walkers can use it too. But this is the big thing, cutting through parking lots or what have you. It's a little safety light that clips on so you can be seen out there. All right, so which is very handy to have that. And speaking of that, is grandchildren. It's the law under 17 years old. This is a true story. Is I had a boy down in Hull, Mass. And his grandfather's the manager, Richard Miller. He went over the handlebars and a screw like this was sticking out. This helmet saved his life. It's the law, under 17 years old, you wear a biking helmet. So if you have grandchildren, even adults, I recommend always wear your helmet. You go biking, my grandfather or my father's very active, and he rides with the kids, and you know, he wears his helmet now to show he's an example. So, but helmets work, and the reason I bring this, if you have grandchildren come over or you're dropped off, just let them know they have to have their helmet. So, I have to say, I had a good time, and I'll be happy to take questions, but thank you very much, and Ron, thank you, and thank you for saying
This is a two-parter, really.
Two parts, I can't take one.
A two-parter.
Oh, two part, go ahead.
The difference between public and private utility, I mean, the public.
Oh,
that's-
utility,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's one part, right?
yeah.
But the second was, just a few months ago, our son mentioned that you could get $100 discount from the utility company if you bought a new freezer or refrigerator or something,
Mhm.
which we were happy to do because we had a very old one that we wanted to get rid of. And we found just what we wanted, and we called Groveland, and you didn't provide.
Well,
You didn't provide.
every utility's different, they don't have
Okay.
to, you know, that's different guidelines because of rate structure, what have you. And as far as investor-owned utility, investor-owned means they're owned by shareholders and stockholders, and their corporate headquarters are out of this country. You're owned by a public utility, that means everything is local, locally owned, any extra savings goes back as a rate reduction to the ratepayer. Other utilities, what they'll do is they'll say, okay, we'll put X amount of dollars, but this stabilizes the fund that way. That's how it works, so everybody should. All right, thank you. I'm
I know
glad-
you said no more.
No,
but
go ahead,
I just
go
have
ahead, I
one.
didn't know.
We have a lot of
Sure.
small houses, you know,
Sure.
that you can buy with a
Yeah.
little light inside, very small wattage, I'm sure.
Right.
And I use a surge suppressor,
Yeah,
a surge strip, and I often piggyback the houses, one onto the other.
okay.
Not a good idea?
Well, so you take the two power strips,
A power strip unless you had 30 houses.
and no, you should not piggyback them. That'll be right, I'll explain that to you. That's a good question, and that's why we have this, is right here under extension cord, see, orange for fire.
Okay.
Okay, that's what you're gonna start, when you start piggybacking them, right here, safety tip, is when you piggyback them, you're gonna overload the outlet.
Even though the bulb is tiny.
Well, you gotta look and read what it has to say, but I'm not gonna recommend piggybacking anything if it starts on fire, so no.
You mean those wires that you buy for the houses?
I'd have to look.
There's special wires that you can plug like 2 or 3 houses into each one.
I'll have to, I tell you, I can't answer that question unless I see it up front. But he mentions piggybacking, that's a
I know.
fire hazard, okay.
It's like
But
a
I-
nightlight.
It's like going to a doctor's office saying, oh, I got a cough. Well, what's the doctor say, come in and let me look. Well, it's the same thing with electrical, when you start mentioning piggybacking, red flags go up and say, oh, I can't say that's good to do.
So if you have an outlet, you're gonna have 2 outlets right there.
Yeah, but the most an outlet can handle is 15 amps. Just because it has 2 outlets or 2 covers there, doesn't mean it's 30.
So you need to look at the amperage on
Amperage,
each one of
right,
those
yeah,
bulbs
right.
and see
Where you're
how
at,
big they are,
right.
which they probably don't have anything on.
Yes, you gotta check them out, right. Better safe than sorry.
Can you bring them to the light company and have them take a look?
I don't think unless it's written on there.
Yeah, well, they usually have a little tag on it.
Okay,
Exactly, that's what you have to do, as you said earlier, you know, read the.
Right.
read the directions on it and go from there, go ahead.
I bought a grinder, a cheap 4.5-inch handheld grinder. Got a 3-prong plug on it,
Mhm.
but something happened somewhere along the way, and I found out that it only had a 2-conductor cord going to it. Now, I assume it's reasonably safe because it's probably all plastic.
Well, I
But
kinda
you
assume,
think it was safer if they had the,
yeah, that's a ground.
yeah,
You
but
have-
it's not a ground on that.
Yeah, you have to consult with an electrician to make sure it's grounded properly. You'd be always better safe than sorry. Check it out with an electrician, there's a reason for the ground. You have a question? Go ahead.
Yes, the difference amps and watts.
Okay, the difference is you need 100,
Say above the 60.
okay, all right, amperage, what is it, 120 volts is equal to 1 amp. Am I right with that?
No.
No, go ahead, Michael, help me.
120 watts would be equal to 1.
Yeah, 120 watts equal to 1. I
Equals
got it
1
backwards.
amp.
Yeah. So you add those up, that's how you figure it out.
Because when you buy an appliance, it usually will say the wattage.
Yeah, but it also has the amperage on it, it'll say 2A, 3A, 4A. and go from
If
there.
you're just given the wattage, just divide the voltage.
But, yeah, like
So
120.
if it's 240 watts
Watts.
and it's 240 volts, it would be 1 amp. Or
Yeah, you
240
divide-
volts, divide the 120.
120.
I always heard that, always look for the UL code.
Well, that's a good thing, but here's the, and we run into this, and I have a DVD, and I was at the conference, look for the UL, there's different lab testing laboratories. But what we found from China, and it's come out, and we have a video, they just throw it on there.
So is there any other code to look for other?
There's different codes, different testing laboratories to go on, but no, what they'll do, and this is the problem, is when you give up your local control, a lot of companies now are leaving China, they're coming back to the United States so they can have quality control because they not knock off products. You go online, Google counterfeit products. There's listings of 15 different pages of knockoff products. And people say, well, it has a UL label. Well, doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean that it's really UL. That's what a lot of
What
people.
about consumer protection book, does that, can you go by that?
You can go by that, go online, but if you Google counterfeit products, I remember we're giving a talk, we had 15 pages of different things, from sneakers to medicine to extension cords. I'll give you a good, perfect example, cameras. Nikon cameras made in Taiwan. A lot of people are buying online Nikon cameras from China. Same thing, Apple iPads now are not made in China, they're made in Japan and Arizona. So this is a whole different talk, but it's a whole different spectrum of the word counterfeit. It's just so much, we live in a global economy, so all of a sudden we're outsourcing everything, but what we really outsource is our quality to control things. And that's where a lot of people don't understand. Oh, I'm gonna save money. Well, you just gave up a lot of your control when it's gone overseas because they got backroom deals, things like that. Especially New Balance. I mean, the local company, their biggest competition is made in USA. You go online, they have an excellent talk, is people buying things on the street and they're just ready to place up in Lawrence selling counterfeit products. So that is, like I said, it's a $20 billion industry, and that's our biggest problem today is the quality. But, I mean, we had some good conversation, and Mike, you had a meeting to run to, and I want to thank you for coming in, and we had a great day.
And thank you.
Thank you.